Hi again. Welcome to part 2 of Aiken Grade 1 reading practice. In the earlier video, I read through the passage Language and Emotions. Now I'm going to go through some difficult vocabulary words and their explanations, and I'm going to paraphrase the 3 different paragraphs into my own words. Some of the words will be the same, of course, but some of the words I changed, so hopefully you can understand the meaning a little better. And then, of course, at the end, I will go through the questions. So the vocabulary words. Physiological. Physiological is relating to the way in which a living organism or bodily part functions. So a physiological response would be something that a human has, something living, or a body part. Next, stimuli. A thing that rouses activity or energy in someone or something. So something that causes energy, that causes activity. Next, hardwired. To make a pattern of behavior or belief standard or instinctive. Something that you are born with, you are hardwired with. It's standard to you. It's normal. Next, innate, inborn, natural. So again, it's something that comes from within. Anxiety, a feeling of worry, nervousness, or unease. I hope you don't feel anxiety before you take the Aiken Grade 1 exam. Next, determination. Firmness of purpose, resoluteness. So your purpose is very firm, it's very strong, you know what you want, you know what you're doing. Next, acquisition. The learning or developing of a skill, habit, or quality. Getting those skills, developing them. Next, triggered. Of a response caused by a particular action, process, or situation. So it's a response that happens. And last, prevalent. Widespread in a particular area or at a particular time. Widespread. So those are not all of the difficult vocabulary from this passage, but hopefully you understand those words a little bit better. And any other words you can always look up in your dictionary. Okay, time to paraphrase. I'm going to read a little bit slower than natural speed, maybe not as slowly as I was reading the second time around, but I want you to understand. So paragraph 1. In Charles Darwin's 1872 book, The Expression of the Emotions in Man and Animals, Darwin, the founder of the evolutionary theory, demonstrated his opinion that emotions are behavioral and physical reactions that assist humans and animals in their quest to survive and evolve. Darwin thought that emotions are untrained responses to outward stimuli and created the theory that all humans, no matter what language or culture they have, show the same specific facial expressions and behaviors when they feel basic emotions. Many perspectives nowadays are from this belief that emotions are innate, and lots of scientists think that the language that is used to talk about emotions was developed to communicate experiences and inward mental states. Though recently, some researchers have argued the case that emotions are built through language, experience, and culture. Paragraph 2. Lisa Feldman Barrett of Northeastern University in the United States is the neuroscientist who came up with the theory of constructed emotion. This theory states that emotions are formed by the brain instead of being present from birth. Barrett demonstrates little concrete scientific proof that supports Darwin's beliefs, and shows that, anatomically, the brain does not automatically respond with a certain emotion when shown stimuli. Instead, many networks in the brain work together to combine visual, auditory, and other kinds of sensory data with memories and cultural concepts that the person learned to build a mental simulation of the world. This process assigns meaning, which includes emotional significance, to new things that are received by the brain. Barrett shows an example of how the brain responds before an exam. Even though one person might think the fact that their heart rate has increased and palms are sweaty means that they are anxious, because of past experience, other people might associate it with the feeling of determination. If our emotions were standard from birth, Barrett thinks that everyone would feel the same emotions in the same settings. She admits that people share basic notions, including pleasure and distress, but she thinks that more abstract concepts of emotions, such as anxiety and determination, are learned when we are older. The way that people determine their own emotions, as well as the type of emotions that they experience, changes depending on their past experiences and cultures, and the situations that arise. Paragraph 3. Barrett believes that especially language influences how people experience and frame their emotions. Language is believed to be the base that acquires and implements knowledge of different concepts. Each language has its own individual concepts to describe feelings that come from behaviors, physical processes, bodily feelings, and context. English has borrowed the word Schadenfreude from German, because in English they didn't have a word to say happiness from the misfortune of others. According to Barrett, because this term is now used in English, more English speakers experience the feeling of Schadenfreude. When it comes to experiencing emotions, Barrett says, if you know a word, if you hear the word often, then it becomes much more automatic, just like driving a car. It gets triggered more easily and you can feel it more easily. This also happens when people move to a foreign country and try to adopt a new language and culture. They start to feel concepts of emotions internally that exist in their new country. All right, that was my paraphrasing of the 3 different paragraphs. Of course, with paraphrasing, it's my own words. You can paraphrase these paragraphs however you want, as long as the meaning is there. You can change the grammar points as long as it makes sense. You can change vocabulary words. You can find synonyms that you could use to replace the original word. It's up to you. I think paraphrasing is a great way to learn English because you have to know the meaning behind the words. All right. Last part. Let's go back to the questions. Hopefully, you have a decent understanding of the answers to the questions. But let's go back, read through the questions again, and I will help you understand the correct answer. All right. Question 35. According to Charles Darwin, emotions evolved separately across different languages and cultures and resulted in different ways of sharing experiences, originated simultaneously with language as an alternative to the body's purely physical reactions in various situations, are universal reactions involving physical responses that occur automatically when people encounter specific stimuli, are learned responses that enable humans to communicate mental states, behaviors, and experiences to others. All right. So Charles Darwin believes, going to that first paragraph, emotions are unconditioned responses to external stimuli, and theorized that all humans across languages and cultures demonstrate the same facial expressions and behaviors for basic emotions. This connects to number 3. They're universal reactions. So emotions are universal reactions. No matter where you're from, what country you're from, you have the same emotion when you encounter the same stimuli. So that's what Darwin believed. And that's why the answer is number 3. Emotions are universal reactions involving physical responses that occur automatically when people encounter specific stimuli. And you can find that answer in the first paragraph. It's not going to say word for word the exact answer, but there are clues, there are similar words, there are synonyms that can help you to deduce the correct answer. Next, the theory of constructed emotion holds that 1. Although the vast majority of emotional concepts are pre-wired in the brain, a small minority can be restructured to some degree by memories. 2. Mental models built up by the brain can be utilized to interpret sensory information and generate emotional responses to experiences. 3. The variation in brain anatomy among individuals accounts for the differences in their emotional reactions to the situations they encounter. 4. Since only one emotion tends to result from one physical reaction, it is possible to predict with certainty how the brain will react to stimuli. All right. So we're going to paragraph 2. Paragraph 2 is talking about Lisa Feldman Barrett and the theory of constructed emotion. So this theory holds that emotions are formulated by the brain instead of existing from birth. So the brain is not structured to automatically produce a certain emotion in response to a given stimuli. It depends on the language, it depends on the location where you live, the culture. So there are a lot of different stimuli, there are a lot of different things that adjust how we feel, what emotions we feel. So the answer is 2. Mental models built up by the brain can be utilized to interpret sensory information and generate emotional responses to experiences. This one is difficult. For this question, it might be easier to cut the wrong answers. Number 1, the vast majority of emotional concepts are pre-wired in the brain. The passage doesn't talk about that. It doesn't talk about a majority and a minority of emotional concepts. Number 3, variation in brain anatomy. No, the passage doesn't talk about how people have different anatomies of their brains. And number 4, since only one emotion results from one physical reaction, it's possible to predict with certainty how the brain will react. No, they're saying it depends. It depends on the language, the culture. So that's also not the right answer. So for some cases, for some questions, it might be easier to get rid of the wrong answers first. And then you see that the answer must be number 2. All right. Number 37. What is implied by the reference to Schadenfreude in the 3rd paragraph? 1. There is a strong correlation between a person's ability to relate to the emotions of others and the person's ability to acquire new skills. 2. The frequency with which words representing emotional concepts are used in a language has little influence on other aspects of culture. 3. Language affects the way people's brains process experiences by helping them to moderate or suppress their emotional reactions. 4. Exposure to new concepts can aid people in identifying unfamiliar feelings, allowing them to experience a broader range of emotion. All right, as always, question 1, paragraph 1. So this is question 3, paragraph 3. All right, so looking at Schadenfreude. So English borrowed the term Schadenfreude because in English, we didn't have a way to say that feeling of happiness that comes from another person's troubles. When the word Schadenfreude was introduced in English, more English speakers have been experiencing Schadenfreude. As Barrett said, if you know a word, if you hear it often, then it becomes more automatic. You can feel it more easily. It becomes triggered more easily. So the answer is number 4. Exposure to new concepts can aid people, can help people identify unfamiliar feelings, which allows them to experience a broader range of emotions. Before we used the word Schadenfreude in English, people, they didn't know how to describe this feeling. So, once the word Schadenfreude was introduced, people understand this feeling much better. They can identify this unfamiliar feeling, which allows them to feel this feeling that we didn't have a simple way of explaining in English before. So that's why the answer to number 37 is 4. All right, whew, that was difficult. I hope that you understand the reading about language and emotions a little bit better, and I will leave you here. Good luck. If you need to, you can always listen to the videos again, part 1 and part 2. Good luck with the test, and I'll see you later. Bye.